My name is Joe Browne, and I just retired earlier this spring after 50, that's 50 years working at the National Football League office in New York. People have asked me since that time if I had a list of favorite days on the job, most memorable games and so on. And I say, well, that's arbitrary, but I will say this, that my most emotional day during those 50 years was March 22nd, 1989. That was the day that Pete Rozelle resigned as commissioner after nearly 30 years on the job. We were at a league meeting in Palm Desert. Late in the morning session, I was told that myself and two others were wanted by Pete in a small conference room during the lunch break. So we went in there, and Pete was already sitting there. He had a cigarette in one hand, Coca-Cola in the other. And he said, all right, what's on the agenda for this afternoon? So Don Weiss, who was one of my colleagues, he said, well, we need to review some playing rule changes. And Pete said very abruptly, I don't want to do that. And Val Pinchbeck, who was our broadcasting director, he said, well, we have some TV policy procedures that need to be approved. Pete said, I don't want to do that either. What we're going to do at the start of the session this afternoon is that I'm going to tell the owners that I'm resigning as commissioner after 30 years, and I'll stay on the job until they find my successor. And before he could get successor out, he broke down, put his head down, and got pretty emotional. So the three of us, Weiss, Pinchbeck, and myself, we're sitting there looking at each other. And Pinchbeck says to Pete, Pete, I'm happy for you. And right away, I said, screw you, Val. Speak for yourself, as I thought about everything from the future of the league to my two sons, what community college they're going to go to as their father was out of work. So that brought Pete around a little bit, and he told us the reasons why he was stepping down. And he told Don Weiss, Don, you make sure all the owners are in there promptly at 2 o'clock. Joe, you get the media into the press conference room, and as soon as I finish telling the owners what my decision is, I'll go in and I'll tell the media. And he broke down again, got very emotional. And I said to him, oh yeah, you're going to do great. You'll do great with the media. Well, we told the owners, Pete told the owners, we went from there into the press conference room, told the stunned media, most of whom had only known one football commissioner, Pete Rozelle, and life went on. Now, years later, people asked me, did you know in advance that Pete was resigning? And I said, oh yeah, I knew. I knew before he told the owners, I knew in advance. They said, well, I'm not so sure, a couple of guys said, because if you knew that this historic day was going to happen, that you never would have been wearing that white sweater with sailboats on it that you were wearing that day. I plead guilty on that one, sailboats in the desert. But somehow the league continued after Pete resigned, and I'm sure the league will continue now that I've left after 50 years.